Hello and welcome to our fourth session. In our previous session, we have successfully programmed the vehicle to drive down the road, colliding with the obstacles as it goes. But the poor player is left behind, missing all the action. So by the end of this session, the camera will follow the vehicle down the road, giving the player a front row seat of the wreckage. In order to keep the camera behind the vehicle, we have to understand the fundamental new programming concept, variables. A variable is just a piece of information that can vary or change with time, and variables are critical for what we are trying to do here. Since the vehicle's position will always be changing or varying, we need a variable to track that position. You couldn't set the camera position to a fixed number like 5, 10 or 100. It wouldn't be able to move with the car. So we will make a new variable for the vehicle's position, set the camera position based on that variable, and just like that, your camera will be able to stay right on your vehicle's tail. To make all this happen, let's dive into Unity. Now coming back to our driving simulator game, in our previous session, the speed of this car is controlled in our code. So if I double click on player controller, I can come into my Visual Studio Code, and here instead of number 11, I can enter a new number, save the file, and again I have to compile it and execute it. What if we can have a control, just like if I select the main camera, just like I adjust its position here using the values? What if I can set the speed of my car right inside my inspector here? So to do this, we are now going to make use of the next important concept in programming, which we call as variables. What is a variable? So you can consider variable just like a container, just like you use container to hold different types of items. Say for example, in your house, to store all the spices, you use different kind of container for different type of dals, rice. Similar to this, in programming, variables are empty containers in which you can add values. When you want to declare variable, the first thing is whether you want that variable to be assessed by everyone even outside the class, then we call it as public, or if I want it to be assessed only within the class, then I call it as private. And then the next part that we have to declare is the type of variable. Say for example, if you are storing cereal, then the container that will be used will be like these jars. But you have oil. Now to store oil, we use a different kind of container. So we may use a container like this, wherein I can pour the oil out with a handle. Just like in our kitchen, we use different type of containers for different types of things. Similarly, in coding, we use different types of variables based on the type of content that we are going to store. For example, if we are going to store numbers, we declare this variable as int. If you are going to store decimal places, then we are going to declare it as float. And if you are going to store true or false, then we are going to declare this variable as bool. Now if you want to store the position of an object in 2D space, means we are going to declare it as vector 2. If you want to store the position in 3D space, means we are going to declare it as vector 3. So these are some of the common type of variables that we use. So having this knowledge, we will now come into Unity, and I am going to select my car vehicle, and for this vehicle I want to set a variable to change its speed. I will select the player controller script, double click to open it. As soon as the class player controller is declared, after this open flower bracket, I will press enter, and I am now going to declare a new variable, and this variable, I want this to be public. Either I can make it public. I want the variable to be visible in my inspector, means in open close square bracket, I have to use this term serialize field. I am now going to declare the type of variable, whether I want it private or public. I am going to make it public. Type of variable that I am going to now declare is a decimal variable. So I am going to call this as float, and now I have to name this variable. I will call this as speed and I will set its value as 11. After 11, I have to add an F. Coming into my code here in update, instead of entering the value 11 directly here, I am now going to replace this value 11 with this speed variable. Copy this speed and paste it here. If I come into file and if I save this, I will come into Unity and allow for the script to compile. If I come and select the vehicle, for vehicle we had added the player controller script, and if I open this component has a parameter called speed and it is currently set to 11. If I play the game, you can see the car is moving slow. I can stop it. Instead of 11, if I set the speed to 30 and if I save it and if I execute it, you can now see the car is moving faster. I will stop the playback. So now you have got a fair idea about how to use the variable. I will set the speed back to 11 and I am going to go to file and save this. Now one common convention that programmers use is whenever you write a script name or a component name, we always start with capital letter. Script, classes, methods, all this we start with capital letter. However, when we declare a variable, the variables will always start with a small letter. So if you open this player controller, when you declare speed, I can even declare this with capital S. But it's a common convention among the programmers to always start variable names with small letters. Now coming back to my Unity, our next mission is we have our camera here and the camera is placed at a particular position here, and the camera position is going to determine what we see in the game view. We want this camera to follow our player, that is my car. Now as my car moves, my camera also has to move. We are going to achieve this using script. There is a very simple way of making this achievable. The very simple way is you just select the main camera and drag it over the vehicle, and if you drop it, this main camera now became a child of my vehicle. If I go to file, save, and if I execute the game, you can now see my camera is moving with the player or the car. See, it is automatically moving with the car. So this is a very simple solution. So I will stop the playback. However, for you to explore and learn scripting, instead of directly making it a child of my vehicle, I am going to drag this back to my drive simulator, bringing it out from the vehicle. So I will drag this main camera and place it at the top now. I am going to make it follow the player using script. I will now come into the script, right click, and I am going to create a new mono behavior script, and I am going to call this as follow, F capital, then P capital, player. And you should see that the name of your file and the class name should be the same. So the script is compiled. Now I will drag this follow player and drop it over my main camera, so that if I select my main camera, you can see here the follow player script is attached to it. I will go to file and save it. I will select this follow player and double click to open it in Visual Studio Code. Now coming into Visual Studio Code, now here the first thing is we are going to declare a variable. So after this follow player mono behavior, after the open flower bracket, I will press enter. Remember, in scripting, normally we try to declare all our variables at the top of the script. I am now going to declare a public variable, and this variable type is, this is a game object. In case of other programming languages, if the type of variable is limited to integer, string or boolean or float, in case of Unity, you can declare a game object itself as a variable. I am going to call game object. So the type of variable is a game object, and I am going to call this a player. So I will press space and the name of this is player. I will start with small letter and end it with semicolon. Now if I go to file and if I save this, if you come to Unity and if you allow the script to compile, if I now select the main camera, you can now see in the FollowPlayer script component, you have a new parameter player, and right now it is not attached to any game object. So we have declared the game object, but its value is none. I am going to drag vehicle and attach it. Attach the reference of vehicle game object to my player variable. Now I will go to file and I will save it. I will come back to the script, and in update I want my game object. This FollowPlayer is attached to the camera, and in camera we are now going to call transform because I have to change its position. Period. I am going to call this position. Now I want the position of my camera should be equal to, I am now going to call this player object, player, and this player also has a transform component, period, position, and I will end it with semicolon. So now what happened is the position of my camera is constantly, every frame will be equal to my player position. If I save this and if I come back to Unity, allow the script to compile. If I select my vehicle, right now it is at 0, 0, 0. Now my camera is at 0, 5, minus 10. And now if I play the game, that my camera position and my player position is the same. We are seeing some error here. The reference script unknown on the behavior is missing. So now if I stop the playback and come into the console window, this is actually a warning. One of the reference script is missing. If I select my main camera and in the inspector, if I see along with the FollowPlayer script, above here there is one more script component added, but here there is no script attached to it. So now I select the script component, come to this right 3 dots and I will remove the component, go to file and save it. And now if I execute the game, you can now see you doesn't have any error. This game is running fine, but the camera position I am not happy. So I will stop the playback. I doesn't want my camera to go and sit inside the player. This is the origin point. The camera is coming and sitting here. I doesn't want this to sit here, but I want this to move a little back. And how much I have to move is, to calculate it, select my vehicle. In inspector, I will come to this transform component. Now I will click on the 3 dots, come to copy the position value. Then I will select my camera. In transform, I will click on these 3 dots and I am going to paste this position value. If you come into the game view, the camera is at the position of my player, that is the car. Now I want this to move back a little like this. So I want this to move back, and also I want it to lift up a little like this. I want this to move along the y-axis by 5 units, and I want to move along the z by minus 7 units. So I want my camera to be placed at this position. In the script, I have to offset my camera from its original player position by x0, y5 and z minus 7. I will select the FollowPlayer script, double click and come into my Visual Studio Code. And now in this transform position, as of now it is equal to player.transform.position. I am going to add plus. I cannot directly add because this component is a vector3 component, and when I add something to it, that also should be a vector3 component. I am now going to declare a new vector3 component. In open close bracket, I am going to give the x value to 0, y I have to move it by 5, and for z I have to move it by minus 7. I have added this new vector value and I have added it to my player transform position. if I save the file, now I will come back into Unity, allow for the script to compile. See, in console there is no error. I will come back to game view, and now if I execute the script, you can now see my camera is correctly following my player. This is now running fine. So now I will stop the playback. In this main camera, now in the vehicle, just like in the player controller script, I can update the speed. I also want to update the position of my camera, the offset value. I want a control to be provided in the inspector so that the user can change these values. We have to convert this vector into a variable. I will come back to Visual Studio Code. Instead of this new vector 035-7 directly adding it in the code, we are going to convert this entire value into a variable. To do that, I will come here to this fifth line, public game object player. After we have declared this, I will just press enter, and I am now going to declare a private variable, and the type of variable now I am going to declare will be a vector3 variable, and I am going to give it the name as offset. I want this to be equal to, I will just copy this entire code here. I am just going to cut it here and come here, and I am now going to paste it. Instead of entering the value directly here, we have attached it to a variable called offset. I am now going to call this offset and end it with semicolon. If I save and execute it, this vector3 offset will not be available in the inspector. Before private, a method called serialize field. So in open close square bracket, I will press enter, and inside this I am going to type serialize field. And now if I come to file and if I save it, I will now come back to Unity and allow the script to compile. If I come into the main camera, now inside this FollowPlayer, you have this offset value present here. I want it to offset a little closer. I can change the value to -5, and if I play the game, you can now see that the camera is closer, or I can press Y and move it to the top. See, as it is playing, I can change the values here. See, I can move it to the bottom. I can make Y 2.62. So I am going to now stop the playback, and I will set this value back to 0, 5 and -7. When I play this game, I see a slight amount of jittery movement in the camera. See, there is some kind of jitteriness in the camera. It is not smooth. So to have a smooth flow, I am going to stop the playback, and I am going to come into the script. And right now, camera position is going to get set using this update method. And when you are using update, every frame at the beginning of the frame itself, this command will be executed, and because of that we are seeing a slight amount of jerk. So to avoid it, after this void update code block before the closing flower bracket, I will press enter twice, and I am going to declare void, and this we call it as L capital late U capital update, and with open close parenthesis, then I will add one open close flower bracket, and inside this flower bracket we are going to put the code. I am going to just select this entire code here. I will press Ctrl X to cut it from here, come into LateUpdate, and I am going to press Ctrl V to paste it. If I go to file and if I save this, and if I come back to Unity, allow for the script to compile, and once it is compiled, there are no errors in the console. And now if I play the game, you can now see that the movement of the camera is smooth because this code is getting executed at the end of the frame after all other updates are executed. I will stop the playback. So one thing you might have observed here is when I click on the play button, you can see that except my scene view and game view, all other tabs turns red. And this is because I have done a setting in my preferences. I will show you that. I will stop the playback, and if I come into edit and preferences, here on the left hand side, you have one tab called as colors. Come into this color, And in this panel, you have one setting here called as play mode tint. And if I click here, I want my play mode tint to be orange, means I can turn the current color towards orange. And instead of making it full opaque, I can set this alpha value to around 185. And now if I close this and if I close the preferences, now I will come to file and save this. And now if I execute the game, you can now see, except for my scene and game view, all other area has turned orange. So I will stop the playback. We are seeing this car moving in a third person view. I want to sit inside the driver's seat and see the realistic view from the driver's viewpoint, and we call this as first person view. How to create this first person view? This we are going to discuss it in our next session.